Chapter 2, Ethical Principles in Business. After completing this chapter, you are expected to understand and explain the major chapter objectives, including ethical concepts, ethical models, and also ethical corporate behavior, corporate code of ethics, advances of code of ethics, ethical principles, and theories of business ethics. Ethical concepts. When we are talking about ethical concepts, it means that the different schools of thought posed towards the concept of the ethics. So they define ethics or consider the ethics in different ways. Some of the major ethical concepts that is applicable in businesses include: one is ethical subjectivism. As the name indicates, this is an ethical choice, or this refers to ethical choice of individual decides the rightness or wrongness of his behavior. According to this school of thought, ethical behavior is what is considered by a given individual. So it's up to the individual to measure whether a certain behavior is acceptable or not. For example, if a certain business, say at Mass University, want to increase its profits, it only considers its policies, regulations, and other organizational requirements. That means it should not bother about the policies of the community issues, government issues, etc. By the way, this school of thought have some just acceptability or truth in it, because every business or every individual just consider his behavior based on what he is doing. So at Mass University have to consider some ethical issues. Some of his behavior is good or bad based on its own choice. That is the choice based on its policies, its regulation, and other organizational requirement. But it should not disregard the issues of communities or the issues of corporate social responsibility. So the limitation under ethical subjectivism is that it only limits the standards to measure the behavior of certain organizations only to its organizational requirements. This is some of the limitations. And another one is ethical relativism. As the name indicates also here, this school of thought thinks that there is no principle that is universally applicable for all businesses at all places. So different business at a different area, in different community, at different geographical area may have different principles to apply. That means one principle may not be applicable for another principle. For example, the principle that is used within Bishoftu town may not be applicable with business that is applicable in Dredawa, in Jijiga, in Benishangul, etc. This also has some truth, because business are operating within societies that have different behaviors, different cultures, etc. Because that is true. But there is also limitation under ethical relativism, because there are universally acceptable principles that any business should apply in the world. For example, principles regarding to basic human rights restrictions, such as the right to liberty, the right to life, the right to education, etc. And also there are principles that the business that should universally apply, such as honesty, integrity, etc. And also we can add another example that every business should avoid bribery or corruption issues. So any business should not commit some bribe in order to run its business. So ethical relativism has some truth, some application in the business, but also it has some limitations. Consequentialism concepts. According to this school of thoughts, an act is considered to be ethical only if maximize the value, that means the outcome. Otherwise, it's not ethically permissible. This school of thought considers that a certain activity or action is said to be ethical if it produces or generates very good result. That means whatever its procedure is wrong, no matter that considers. So for consequentialism, what is to be considered is only the goodness of the outcome. For example, sorry to say that, if a student score A by cheating, for consequentialism, so long as he achieved A, that is a good behavior. But do you think that this is acceptable? Is consequentialism acceptable? Bibles, Quran, and also social values? Of course, consequentialism has some application. Every business is expected to do good things as well as to achieve a good result. For example, managers have to achieve or have to increase or have to just score a good profit. If managers are not going to achieve good profits, such business out of the market. Therefore, consequentialism has certain application in the business. But what is the limitation here is that it does not consider the reasoning process, the rules. It does not consider the ethical issues that is to be related with the intentions, the reasoning process to achieve certain outcomes. Another one is deontological ethics. This is a reverse of consequentialist ethics. Deontological ethics is also known as by universalism. So this states that ethical values can be developed from the concept of reason as well as rational individual that possess the ability to reason. That means, what is ethical? A certain activity or a certain behavior is ethical if it is achieved through a good reasoning, through following certain principles, acceptable rules. For deontological ethics, rule is necessary because every individual should give decision based on such rules so that to avoid any impartiality that might have occurred. So deontological in simple terms is rule-based, law-based, reason-based. But here there is also some limitation. It limits ethical values to the reasoning process, so the intention. It does not consider about the outcomes. Still, in business world, both deontological or reasoning, intention, good behavior, as well as the outcome is necessary. So a business to be just a good business, it have to consider both deontological, that is universalism, and consequentialist, that is teleological theory. Another concept is ethics of virtue. Ethics of virtue emphasize that those trait characters that give the individual a sense of satisfaction from which each ethical point of view. So for ethics of virtue, an ethical issue or certain action behavior is said to be good or ethical so long as it produces certain good sense of satisfaction. If a business gets or an individual gets satisfaction by his behavior, by what he have done, then his behavior is said to be ethical. For example, traits such as courage, such as honesty, tolerance, and generosity just produces a sense of satisfaction. Another one is whistleblowing. Whistleblowing refers to the attempt of an employee to disclose what he believes to be illegal behavior. Okay, if a certain say manager or employees come across with illegal actions within the organization, he is expected to disclose such behaviors to the concerned government body or another body or maybe managers. For example, if a certain organization is going to commit crime such as tax avoidance, such employee has a patriotism or a citizen obligation to disclose such behavior to the government. But one thing that such employee have to consider is that they should not expose the organizational secrets or confidentialities that are not related with illegal issues. If such secrets are just related to the illegal behavior, maybe he going to disclose it because he has no option. Otherwise, he have not just disclose organization secrets, because the success of any organization is based on this, the confidentiality or the secrets of the business. Okay, another one is ethical models. What are ethical models? Ethical models, these are some standards that are used to define ethical situations, and they are used to manage ethical dilemmas in the organization. We'll deal about ethical dilemma in chapter 3, but for sake of information, ethical dilemma means it is ethical paradox in which a manager faces two similar cases, so that he faces difficulty in making decisions regarding such issues. So some of the ethical models that are very important within applicable in business is, one is the golden rule model. The golden rule model, this is based on the New Testament Bible, which says people should treat others in the same manner that they themselves would like to be treated. What is the principle here is that it encourages the business or individuals to pursue the ethical behaviors so as to receive what it thinks to ethical. Okay, any business needs to be treated ethically by government, by employees, by creditors, and other stakeholders. So long as it expects good things from others, first it has to act in good manner. So to expect good things from its stakeholders, first it has to act in good manner. That's why it is also called ethics of reciprocity, that is mutual relationship, because the golden rule stimulates an individual to put oneself in the other's shoes and then evaluate how one would wish to be treated in the particular situation. That means this encourages any businesses in order to behave in good manner. So the golden rule is one of the rules that businesses are expected to follow in order to act ethically in the business environment. The next one is, or the second model, is the Cardian Model. Cardian Model is proposed by philosopher Kant, and this is based on the hypothesis that everyone or everybody has some fundamental rights of liberty or fundamental rights of freedom to act in ethical universe. That means everybody do what it everybody has a right to think freely, to act freely, and the duty is just related to such freedoms. So every action individual managers or individuals, any individual, based on such freedom of actions. So they have to do according to Kantian model. Every manager is expected to make decision based on this freedom of actions. That is within their inner one. They should not be forced, or they should not be pressurized by external body to make a good decision. This good decision should come from their heart. Ethical actions are performed based on ethical duty. Okay, this is very important term. So for Kant, what are the source of ethical duty? So there are two types of duty, and which one is preferred for Kant, and also what is the reason for preferring such one. So for Kant, there are two concepts of duty. One is external and the other one is internal duty. So external duty, and also called categorical imperatives or categorical rules. So categorical means just what is already defined, already determined, so that you cannot escape or you cannot deviate from such rules. So external duty or categorical imperative rule is just following orders imposed by others. That means managers do their activities, or they decide any management activities based on what is externally imposed on them. That are these imperatives or categorical imperatives or rules or external duties are unconditional commands. That means the commands that is coming from outside, especially from government through legislation, So the categorical imperatives always tell the truth as it is unconditional and can be applied at all times because they are predetermined. Yes, they are predetermined, and managers cannot make any discretion while making such decisions. They have to follow unconditionally. Example, paying taxes due to fear of punishment. Okay, government pose tax laws on businesses, otherwise they will be punished through interest or through penalty or through imprisonment. Paying salary or wages due to fear of sanctions prescribed in labor relations law. Some does not like to pay very adequate wages for employees, but they pay because of the external pressures imposed by labor relation law. This is some of examples. External duty. Internal duty, also called hypothetical imperative or hypothetical rules, is one imposed on oneself to perform the act purely in accordance with one's duty. That means in internal duty, if managers are going to do their activity based on internal duty, such duties are just imposed by themselves on themselves. So it's purely from their internal sense. If one wants to achieve success, then should work freely. Good managers, or those managers who are just going to be ethical, should follow internal duty or hypothetical imperative rather than external law. But by the way, Kant is not ignoring the external rules, but for be more ethical, he prefers just to use internal duty because internal duty is in addition to external duty. But those who are following only external duty does not just apply this internal duty. They do not care about this one. That's why Kant poses on internal duty, because it is in addition to external duty. Example, business funding city mayors budget to construct roads, schools, hospitals to support the community in which business have been operating. This is a good example of hypothetical imperative or rules. Just such businesses therefore obey the rules, the external rules. They pay taxes, they pay salaries, wages, but in addition to that, without any external force, they also just support government or city mayors on such infrastructural issues. So this is a good ethical behavior that every business should follow according to Kant. Which one Kant prefers? The internal one, the external one? Kant prefers the internal duty, because if the actions are predetermined, that means categorical, then they cannot be described as free and moral. Okay, so one's action is going to be free and moral if such action is come from the internal ones. If they come from the external ones, that is because of fear. So we cannot say that is moral and free will. Kant believes that the source of physical world, that means that's coming from external pressures such as government, might be what? Unreliable, might be passive, that means they are not active, and phenomena that extraordinary, they have missing point. So things coming from external world does not indicate the true things. So he believes that to act morally, freedom is required. So for Kant, freedom is the most important things to be ethical. So the one who is motivated by internal duty no longer needs any support. Such managers who are doing in their freedom through their internal duty does not give any shits or any care for no sympathy coming from his customers or others. Such professionals, such managers do their activities because of their internal duty. They do not fear of external cases. They don't care about external cases. They are thinking what they are doing for their own internal satisfactions and for the sake of professions. That's why Kant prefers internal duty rather than external duty. Okay, another issue is ethical corporate behavior or organizational ethics. There are differences between, by the way, organizational ethics and ethics. So ethics is an attempt or endeavor by individuals to understand what is right or wrong. That ethics is a discipline, is philosophy that studies what is wrong or what is right. But organizational ethics, this is code of conduct, is used to consider the issues, the values of morality and rationality within an organization. So organizational ethics measures whether there are moral issues, whether there are ethical values within the organization. There are also differences between organizational ethics and management ethics. Management ethics focus on the ethical quality of decisions and actions, because they are considering about management taken by managers or organizations. That is, management deals with the individuals in the organization, but an organization, it deals with what? All the activities of an organization, including management activities. That is, organizational ethics is more broader than the management ethics. Management ethics included within organizational ethics. That means management ethics is based upon organizational ethics. Management ethics derived from organizational ethics. There are many determinants of organizational ethics. That means whether an organizational ethics is good or not, it is strong or weak. Certain factors determines such strengths and quality. Among these are the major ones: the corporate mission, constituency relations, policies and practice, and types of organization. Let's see corporate mission. Corporate mission, generally, these are very general and long-term objectives of an organization that define its ethical responsibility. For instance, the quality, how we are going to achieve quality for community, how it's going to serve its community, etc. So corporate mission includes some of the ethical issue within it. So if a corporate mission includes certain ethical issue in it, that means such organizational ethics are very good, they are qualitative, they are strong. Otherwise, they are categorized as weak or low quality of ethics. Another one is constituency relations. This defines the responsibilities of the elements or members of an organization. Constituency means the elements or members of organization. There are different members of the organization. We call stakeholders. This may be managers, employees, customers, also creditors, suppliers, etc. Governments. These are all constituency relations. How this relationship has been determined. If this relationship is good enough, if the organizational ethics is going to treat these elements in good manner, that organizational ethics is going to be good. If it does not consider or it does not pay attention for each element of the organization, then such organizational ethics are said to be maybe weak or it's not strong ones. Another one is policy. This is similar to also organizational ethics can be used to evaluate policies and practices of the organization. Every policies and every organizational practices should be based on the organizational ethics. So policy should include organizational ethics, and any practice should have to just comply with organizational ethics. If organizational ethics or ethical issues, moral issues such as quality, employee welfare, etc. are included within the policy and practice, then organizational ethics is going to be good. Types of organizations. This also determines the quality or the strength of organizational ethics. What is organization? Okay, organization is not a building, rather than organization is a collection of individuals with a common mission, individuals that are working for common mission. So organization can be classified into different ways based on different mechanisms. For example, we can define organization based on geographical basis. We can define organization based on products, based on customers, etc. But for sake of our discussion, we divide organization based on two things: economic and ethical concerns. Based on these two concepts, organization can be divided into 4 categories. The first one is exploitive organizations. What is exploitive organizations? This is characterized with very low economic and low ethical concerns. This organization has not achieved its business, and also it has very low ethical concerns. They are abusive in nature, and such organizations are unfair in nature. For example, they utilize child labor. That means they use forced child labor. They use rivers for dumping wastes to maximize their profits, but such behavior is very low ethical concerns. You can find such business, by the way, around you. If you want to follow the Kantian model, please get such business and advise such businesses to correct their actions, because such businesses are not useful for the development of the country as a whole. They have only short-term results, they have no long-term results, they are killers. So as responsible citizens, I advise you to contact them, don't fear, and give options. Cannot retreat from their activities, don't hesitate to report for the concerned government body if there are good government body you get. Manipulative organizations. This is similar to exploitative organization, but manipulative organizations characterized with their high economic performance concerns but low ethical concerns. These organizations has more skillful. They have good employees, they have good managers, they are working for high economic performances, but the problem is they are not ethical because they use some gaps. For example, gap in laws. By the way, law does not stipulate every and each business activities because laws are the result of human minds, which is imperfect. So that is why ethics is required for business. Ethics just supplements the gaps in the laws. But these types of business generally just manipulate such gaps, such excuses, and try to exploit, harm the government, harm the laborers, harm the community, and etc. So these businesses are very dangerous. So you can get such businesses around you and give also consults if you are a good citizen. Another one is holistic organizations. Holistic organizations are characterized with high ethical concerns but low economic concerns, just opposite of manipulative organizations. These organizations are not bad because in their very nature they spend their time or their money on social and environmental response. That's why they are highly ethical in their concerns. In their nature, they are not business driving business. For example, there are some of the philanthropy organizations such as charity. For example, Macedonia. Such organizations are called holistic organizations. Another one is balanced organization. Balanced organization, as its name indicates, have high ethical and high economic concerns. So these organizations are, which is ideally acceptable and good for a certain community, and we should have to appreciate such organizations whenever we come across with them. Corporate code of ethics. What is corporate code of ethics? These are standards and beliefs of an organization, and they are prepared or they are made by managers, that is especially top managers. So this corporate code of ethics are generally measures any behaviors of managers and also the lower staffs, that their behavior is wrong or not, is it acceptable or not, is it in the line with organizational requirement or not. So they used to adjust the thinking and attitude of individuals in the organization. That means there are standards, they are measuring and they are reshaping the thinking and attitude within the organization towards ethical behavior or to the line of the organization. They can be used to advise, to guide, and also regulate the behavior of individual organizations. That means they are shaping and taking the attitude of individuals. This is their advantage. An organization can enact ethical codes by incorporating several issues in it. Many organizations have formulated codes of ethics for their employees, including issues such as one, ethical course of discipline. So what a discipline is needed from a certain employee. So such discipline is included within such code. Within the case of dressing, what proper dressing required is mentioned there. Avoiding abusive language or actions. Some managers may insult their employees, and also employees or managers may insult their customers. So the prohibitions of such actions may be included within the code of conduct. Punctuality. Punctuality just in two cases. One is on-time entry and on-time exit. The second one is delivering of projects on time. Always follow instruction from supervisors. Subordinates should obey any instruction given by supervisors, otherwise certain sanction will follow. Performance of fair pay, performance appraisal. How performance appraisal is going to be carried on. The procedures may be laid also in such ethical codes. Personal and cultural ethical codes will also include it. Not using official property for personal use. Yeah, this is what you have learned from labor law. Performance of good quality of work. Yes, good quality work. So quality work, by the way, measured by certain instruments or by certain standards. So employees may be required to just do a certain things to require quality. Having initiative, that means employees need to have just initiative, courage to do certain things, their performance, their jobs. They should not be lazy. And also conservation of resource and protection of quality of environment may be also included with ethical code of ethics. There are so many advantages of business code of ethics. One is to handle the outside pressure. So if organization have a very good course of ethics, it can resist the outside pressure that coming from external, especially from regulatory organs. Regulatory organs generally come to just audit and to punish the violators of ethical rules. Business code of ethics are very important for guiding and for reshaping the attitudes and the thinking of employees within the organization, so that everybody can be on track of the ethical issues. So by just doing, they can resist the outside pressures. They can also resist pressures of competitors. Outside pressures may come from competitors. Make overall strategic decisions. Okay, ethical code of conduct or business code of ethics are general basis for making strategic decisions. That means ethical code of conduct helps us to make a very ethical strategic decisions within the organization, to define and implement the policy of organization. Policies concerning maybe procurement policy, human resource policy, purchase policy, employment policy, etc. just should emanate from such good business code of ethics. So they are basis for determining such good policies within the organization. To distribute work between the employees. Okay, distribution of workload is very important and is very ethical. So in some organizations, some employees work more and paid less, and work less and paid more. This is very unethical. But the presence of business code of ethics may try to distribute and balance the workload between employees to optimize the public image and public confidence of the organization. If there is a very good organizational code of business ethics, organizational code of ethics, then people may have good image towards the organization. They may think that such organizations are ethical, they have concern for the community, have concern for the public, etc. To increase the skills and knowledge of individuals. Okay, doing in ethical sense generally helps employees to increase their skills, to increase their knowledge, because ethical issues generally encourage any individuals to work better. Courage, it demands initiative of the workers. So everybody who are working towards improvement, they also improve their skills and knowledge to respond to different issues of stakeholders. Because business code of ethics can lay certain procedures how to just consider the issues coming from stakeholders, from customers, from creditors, from suppliers, governments, etc. To discourage improper requests from employees. Okay, some employee may request improper requests, for example, promotion, increasing supply, bonus, etc. improperly. If a certain business has business code of ethics, then it can make impartial decision, and that is acceptable and fair decision based on such business code of conduct. If there is no such business code of conduct, the manager may face difficulty to answer for such request. They can also strengthen the enterprise system. So doing all things generally can build or made up of the good or strong enterprise system. There are generally two types of corporate code of ethics or business code of ethics, but we will deal this one in detail in chapter 3. But For here, ethical principle based and policy based. Principle based means value based, and policy based means just on specific compliance based. Please refer to chapter 3 to understand more about this issue. Okay, let's go one of the most important part, ethical principles. There are different ethical principles that business have to follow in order to make ethical decisions. The first one is integrity. Integrity means honesty, being honest. So the rule of or principle of integrity imposes an obligation on all professionals to be straightforward and honest in business relationships. So it implies dealing and just truthfulness. So it's being honesty. Objectivity. What's objectivity? The principle of objectivity imposes an obligation on all professionals not to compromise their professional or business judgment because of bias, conflict of interest, or undue influence or others. So objectivity means simply doing things impartially. They should not be corrupted by what they have seen. So objectivity and impartiality is one of the ethical principles that are required from all professionals within the business. Professional behavior. This is also another principle. Professional behavior has two things in it. One, comply with the relevant laws and regulations, and the second one is avoid any action that professionals know or should have to know may discredit the profession. So what do you think that if your instructor just chew charts on the road, on public square, etc., what do you think that if your instructor come to the class to teach you by wearing a torn out clothes and dirty clothes, will that discredit his profession? Okay, anyway, any profession should have to avoid any activities or any action, even though they are not mentioned within business code of ethics, that might discredit the profession, especially based upon the community rules. Okay, another professional ethics required is professional competence and due care. If a professional has no competence, he cannot just share his knowledge and his skills for the others. If he has no due care, he cannot also share. Any professional need to maintain his professional knowledge and skill at the required level. The required level means that the level that is required to just serve the customers, and he have to act diligently. Diligently means doing as much as possible what is required from him in accordance with applicable technical and professional standards. So diligence is also very important ethical principle required from any professionals. Another important part is theories of business ethics. There are different theories of business ethics. One is stakeholder theory. Stakeholder theory argues there are other parties other than shareholders that company need to consider in its decisions and actions. Okay, there is an opposite theory, what you call stockholder theory. Stockholder theory considers that business should have to give due consideration only for shareholders because they are the shareholders that invest within the organization, that incur shareholders. Therefore, the business should give consideration for shareholders other than other parties. So stakeholder theory comes in opposition of such stockholder theory. Stakeholder theory proposes that business should not give due consideration only for shareholders. It has to give consideration for all stockholders, including the shareholders. So these other parties may include creditors, suppliers, government, employees, etc. So stakeholders are persons that can affect the decision of the business or that can be affected by the decision of the business. So such stakeholders should be just consider while in the decision making process. For example, if company designed to produce certain goods, it has to consider quality issues in relation to customers. It has to consider its tax policies in relation to government. It has to also consider qualities and supply chains regard to suppliers, etc. So list other stakeholders. What are the other stakeholders that affect rather than shareholders? Shareholders are also part of stakeholders, but here I already mentioned, but try to mention it again by yourself. Another one is social contract theory. This sees social responsibility as contractual obligation the firm or the business owes to society. That means social contract theory, in short, just argues that there is a contract between society and a business. Business generally gets their inputs such as labor, capital, such as land and other infrastructures from society, from the public. Therefore, they have to just consider such public issues while they are doing their business. So the social contract theory emanates from these basic principles. Social contract theory can be macro social or micro contracts. So micro social contract, this refers to, this is very general one, refers to communities. When a business has a relation or is a contract with communities, when it has a relation with communities, and the micro one, when the business has relations with a certain individual that is a member of a community. So because of such contract theory, business have to due regard for corporate social responsibility. Business cannot ignore the communities because they get everything from community members. Another one is legitimacy theory. Legitimacy theory derives its source from social contract theory. There is some similarities. The similarity is that legitimacy theory and corporate social contract theory just based upon the relationships that exists between the community and the business. That means community derives all its resources from the business. So legitimacy theory generally proposes that assumptions that the action of entity or business are desirable, proper or appropriate with some socially constructed systems or norms, values, beliefs. That means why a certain business doing within society, because it gets such a legitimacy from the community. So it is about legitimacy, is about the relevancy. Why business do, where they get such legal grounds. It talks about the legal grounds that the business have with the society. So it's about talking about relevancy. Because of similarity and difference, it is certain activity for you. So you are expected to do these all activities. Thank you for watching these TV students. Nice to meet you again in the next video, and please try to read and try to subscribe the YouTube channels in order to get more information.